Welcome to the Whiskey Vault.
I'm Rex.
I'm Daniel.
And today we are trying Glenfiddich.
Sort of by request.
Single malt Scotch whiskey. Sort of.
Sort of.
He asked for something else, but we have something better?
Different.
Comparable.
Let's go. All right, Glenfiddich 12. It is time.
This is the one that had the weird shaped bottle that I was like, because it looks like it's just from a distance, a normal bottle, but it's got like a triangle, rounded triangle shape. And he said they're famous for that. So.
Well, they're famous for a lot of things, but yeah, especially that bottle shape. So this is just one of the most classic, that's right, this is one of the most classic Speyside whiskeys, or scotches for that matter, that you'll ever drink.
Okay.
As far as most widely known, owned by William Grant and Sons.
Yeah.
And as far as flavor profile, there's nothing all that unique. It's just a classic example of a damn fine Speyside whiskey.
So
it's also a good price point.
Middle of the road.
Middle of the road in every aspect, except they're unbelievable marketers.
Yeah, how so?
Yeah, because at every point in their history, when everyone else did the wrong thing, they did the right thing.
Okay. Tell me more about that in just a second. I'm smelling this, and I feel like...
I get apple juice.
Yes, I feel, well, in caramel sweetness, and
Yeah.
I feel like I have smelled this 100 times.
Yeah, you have.
Because it is, yeah.
It's just a classic Speyside, man. Light. It's
very friendly.
There's nothing you could describe this with that you couldn't describe 15 other Speyside whiskeys in a very similar fashion.
But people, this is incredibly popular because you said they're doing...
Try it, you'll see why.
You said they're very good at marketing.
Well, I'll explain that part, but
Right.
that wouldn't have held up if they weren't also good.
Super apple juicy, you're right.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Simple.
Wow. That is, what is the alcohol percentage here?
It's 40, I think.
I don't know.
40.
40%.
Even 40. Lowest you can get without being not whiskey anymore.
Even though it smelled incredibly friendly, it was still surprisingly smooth and effortless.
Huh?
As I, yeah.
It's not overly sweet either. Like, it's not too candy. Like, Glen Roth's gets way too candy.
Right.
This one is just a damn good scotch, right? Like, if you're in the mood for a scotch, this will not disappoint you.
Yeah.
It won't change your life forever, but it also won't disappoint you.
Do you think this is a good entry point for people to get into?
Yeah, it's pretty sparkly and high-end notes.
Yeah.
Maybe you could go from bourbon into this.
You think?
A little bit of smoke.
It's not candy sweet. It's kind of like, look, if you're not so much of if you're not so much of a pansy that you need some just candy, right? If you're ready to go, not even intermediate, like beginner to intermediate level scotch, then this is.
So here's a little cool fact that you should probably be looking for in the taste. You remember how we always talked about there's some whiskeys that feel like they're blended and it's like they didn't have time for all the flavors to become one flavor?
This feels very nicely merged.
Okay, so here's a trippy thing. This is made up of 3 different whiskeys aged 3 different ways.
Really?
At their distillery, they use Oloroso casks, European oak, sherry, and American oak for 12 years. And then they blend those 3 together in a thing that's kind of unique for them. It's these oak tons that are specifically to sit in there for 9 months while the 3 different flavors have time to become one flavor.
Huh.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, yeah.
And it does taste like one flavor. It doesn't taste like you threw a bunch of shit together.
So the apple juice is the most clingy bit for me.
That's me too. It is very appley.
Yeah, apple juice and what is that? It's not.
See, even the tasting notes on their own website, they couldn't get specific. Right? There's tasting notes on their own website said light, floral, spicy.
Right.
It's like, that's not very helpful.
No, basically, if they would have put apple juice scotch. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like apple juice and scotch too.
Now, here's the cool thing. William Grant and Sons owns this. Now, there's so many cool things they did. First, they just made a good whiskey, right? They went about like everybody else.
Yeah.
Then around Prohibition, American Prohibition, everyone else cut back on whiskey production because Prohibition decreased demand so drastically.
Yeah.
They increased production. So when all of a sudden the Prohibition was over, they were the only ones who had a massive amount of whiskey on hand to supply demand.
At least back in the day, they were comfortable operating in not even the gray area of the law, the dark gray area of the law.
Well, they were in Scotland.
Ah, yes, of course.
It didn't matter.
Well, of course,
So,
they had.
but it was a risk.
They had to ship it.
That's right. It's a risk. It was a risk to increase production when demand worldwide had just dropped. Now, the second thing that's cool is they've done that at every point in history.
Demand didn't drop.
Yeah,
but
legality and acquiring it dropped. Yeah. Okay, so then they were some of the first to start putting it in gift packs and tubes. Right, the tubes that you now see everybody having in Scotch, they were one of the first brands to do that. Right?
Forward thinking.
Extra marketing. They were one of the first to embrace duty-free shops. And because of that kind of forward-thinking, always aggressive, always looking for the next thing, so they have become synonymous with Scotch. Right? If you say Scotch and people don't know Scotch, they'll still recognize Glenfiddich or Glenlivet or Glenmorangie.
So to me, what I hear you saying, that on my ear is this awkward nexus of the practical realities of the marketplace and the romantic ideal of what Scotch distilleries are doing.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have this idea in your head where it's a bunch of guys with big beards and the flat caps and they're doing things with barrels and you're sweeping the distillery floor. But in terms of making sure that you can keep doing that year after year, you have to make sure you're moving some products. And these guys are very on point. They're very adept at making sure that they can keep making cool scotches.
Yes, it's like the difference between being a cool band and people buying your records.
Right. So whether or not you call them a sellout, you have to call them successful.
Yes, you can. And they're good. And I just noticed something. On the back of the bottle, they put a tasting note that I completely agree with. Pear. And it is that direction of nice.
Apple, and the thing is, apple and pear, it's absolutely in that direction.
Yeah.
And I think this would also be the tiniest bit of smoke, a good entry point for people to start getting into smoke. Because it's hardly there.
It's
hardly there, but it's enough there that you can start to...
I'll tell you why I did this. I'm not going to take the other one. I'm just going to do... Such a child.
Which one?
The guy who said, why don't you try something entry level?
You're saying the whole thing now.
No, there's other comments to talk about.
Say a name.
I don't remember. That's why I was looking at.
No, say a name.
Say my name. My name is what? My name is what? My name is...
Oh, got it. All right. Jacob B.
Yes, Jacob B.
Hey guys, I really enjoy your videos. Thank you, Jacob B. I'm new to Scotch whiskey. Would it be possible for you to both do a tasting of something generally considered an entry-level Scotch?
Like Glenmorangie, he says.
Like Glenmorangie 10.
I want to say that was going to be my first... I was going to do that for you, Jacob. And I couldn't because the only Glenmorangies I have on hand are like $60 Glenmorangies.
Not entry level.
I don't have an entry level Glenmorangie. We've just finished the bottle and it's not in the... I haven't replaced it yet. So I went to the Glenfiddich because this is a under $40, like $35 whiskey. Right. And so... sorry, not doing the Glenmorangie, but Glenfiddich is a good starting point.
Apple, pear, tiniest bit of smoke.
All right, now let's do an actual comment. We got a couple we can choose from. You're welcome, Jacob. Sorry for Rex.
Andrew Webb, first I want to say I love your videos. Thank you. This goes back to a previous question I posed. Do you guys think longer aging improves the taste? Also, do you think is there such a thing as overaging?
No and yes. And I answered this in the comments as well, but here's the thing. Older means different, not necessarily better. It can mean better. It can also mean not better. It completely has to do with what you prefer. That'll be more expensive because it'll be more rare.
So what is aging going to change?
It's going to, think of it like this. Here's your visual. You take a stone. It's all jagged and you just pour it on, you throw it into a river. Yeah. You come back 100 years later, it's a skipping stone.
Okay.
Right? It's all rounded and pretty.
Yeah.
Right? That is what time does to a whiskey.
Smooths
in
out
Scotch,
the
right? Is it just kind of takes all the rough edges off. Now, the reason it does that in Scotch is because it's a cooler climate, and so it's aging. It can age longer and slower. Now, here's the thing about aging. When it comes to bourbons and Scotches, are very different.
Okay.
Right? Hotter climate is going to evaporate more of the water first, and you'll get higher proof really fast, right? And also, it'll heavily accent the effect of the wood on the whiskey.
Now,
really fast.
You recently had a pretty in-depth conversation.
I was going to say this. So
with the master distiller of Balcones.
Jacob Hempstead, one of the master distillers and the main dude, general badass at Balcones, he was saying, you know, he was hanging out with guys from Kentucky who would try a bourbon, and they would say, oh, this is good, but we could give this another 5 years, 6 years, and this can be really good. And Jared was saying, I wish I could hold on to these things for 5 years. In Texas, it's so hot that, you know, he could achieve that same impact in like a year.
Right.
And so it's like you have to be really careful. When you have high temperatures, the wood's going to have a dramatic effect. Now, what I'm going to say to that is overaging, that rarely happens in Scotland because it's so damn cold.
Yeah.
But it can absolutely happen in the States, especially in the South,
Right.
where you can have a whiskey be in a barrel so long it has a negative effect on the flavor.
Okay. So
there's a turning point.
In the hotter climates, like we can age things faster, but it's like working with dynamite.
Yes.
It could blow up if you're not careful.
Yeah. And here's part 2 of that.
Okay.
Because I want to address the fast aging thing.
Yeah.
Right? What happens when someone's figured out how they can use chemicals and pressure and things to age a whiskey in 24 hours so it tastes like a 10-year-old whiskey? Okay, well, there's some truth and some not true to that statement.
Okay.
What you do when you're aggressively aging a whiskey, and this goes for southern whiskeys too, like in Texas, if you have something that's done in 3 years, because it's so damn hot. What happened in 3 years was the impact of the barrel wood was really heavy, really fast.
Right.
Right.
That was
like,
accelerated.
look at this.
That was accelerated.
Yeah. Where's Balcones?
You don't know.
Oh, it's in that. Well, no, I hit it because
by
it's
memory
so rare.
where your Balcones
Okay,
is.
here we go.
The master distiller
Look at
is
this.
in this room, and you don't know.
Look at this. This is a super dark whiskey. That's under 4 years old, right?
Right.
Now, that's in Texas.
That one. All right.
Yeah, that's in Texas. Super dark. Now, here's a whiskey that's probably 12 years older, and look how light that is. That's in Scotland. Right?
Right.
Now, what happened here was not that it's that much older and it's pretending to be a 20-year-old whiskey. It means that the heat was so strong, the impact of the barrel charring the barrel wood on the whiskey colored it really fast. There's no color added to this, right? So, what you're doing when you're accelerating that is you are getting a faster effect from the barrel. But there's one thing that you can't solve when you don't have time. And time is the chemical reaction between the lignins in the wood and the alcohol, which is the chemical structure of the wood and the alcohol. It takes time to, over time, alcohol will break down the lignins in wood, and you can't accelerate that. You can't fake that. You can push it in and out of the wood like a sponge,
right?
But you can't fake the breakdown of the chemical composition of the wood without waiting for it. And so there are people who will say that when you really wait for a whiskey to get older,
right,
that's the subtleties that you're getting in an old whiskey,
right,
that you can't fake or get in a younger whiskey.
Yeah.
So when someone says this tastes young, what they're missing are all the chemical reactions created from the breakdown of the chemical structure of the wood inside the barrel.
Yeah. So the only way to
That's
really
about as nerdy science as we've got.
The only
so
way you
far.
can really cheat that whole process is if you do what we did in our Blendageddon video, which if you haven't seen it, we're gonna
link back
to it here on the screen. Click that, check it out. And we basically mixed together 36 different whiskeys to get nuance and complexity, but that was cheating. That was just pouring a whole bunch of different things in.
That's called a blend, baby. That's called
How
a
long
blend.
did that take us? There we go.
Yeah.
And we're done.
I'm going to look into the legality of selling that.
Right.
We should do that.
Yeah, I don't think we could list the... Anyways.
All right, we're good. Fair enough.
Was there another one that was...
There's another one, but let's save it till next time. We're 13 minutes in already.
Saving it. Hit subscribe.
All right.
Good questions. Leave more questions. We like your questions.
Until tomorrow, may your crazy stay this side illegal.
May you return before we have time to miss you.
Wait, hold on a second. Dude, you can't cheers with no whiskey.
You don't understand what was about to happen.
You're about to take mine.
I was about to take yours.
Yes, and I wasn't going to let that happen. Cheers.
Cheers.